In 518 BC, a king ordered 10,000 workers to level a sacred mountain, not to worship it, to destroy it, to use its bones as the foundation for the most arrogant building project the ancient world had ever seen. Those workers received no wages. They received rations, survival, and a promise they would never live to see fulfilled. The city they built would take 60 years to complete. Most of them would die before the first hall was finished. Most people think Persepolis was a wonder of Persian civilization. They are wrong. It was a war machine, a psychological weapon disguised as architecture, and the secret behind its construction has been buried under 2,500 years of dust and fire. This is what they never tell you. His name was Darius I, King of Kings, ruler of an empire stretching from the Indus River to the Aegean Sea. 23 nations under one crown. Millions of people speaking dozens of languages, worshipping dozens of gods, all ultimately answering to one man sitting on one throne. He already had a capital. He already had palaces. He already had tribute flowing in from every direction every single year. He did not need to build anything, and yet something drove him. An ambition that went beyond practical necessity. A need to prove that the empire he ruled deserved a monument the world had never seen. Something that would outlast him. Something that would make every king before him look like a footnote. In 518 BC, he chose a site in the heart of Persia, a flat plain at the foot of a mountain called Kuwe Rahmat, the Mountain of Mercy, and he declared that something unprecedented would rise from that earth. AI visual, aerial reconstruction of the Marvdasht Plain in 500 BC, dry terrain stretching to the horizon, a lone rock formation rising against the desert sky, the distant outline of the Zagros Mountains behind it. The site was not practical, not near a river, not near a trade route, not near any natural strategic advantage. It was just a plain, flat, dry, and silent. That was exactly the point. Darius did not want a capital that served commerce. He wanted a capital that served power. A city that forced every ambassador, every king, every tribute bearer to cross deserts and mountains just to reach its gates. A city whose very location said, "I am not coming to you. You are coming to me." The site was called Parsa. We know it today by its Greek name, Persepolis, the city of Persians. But before a single column could rise, they would have to do something never attempted at this scale in recorded history. They would have to cut a mountain apart with nothing but copper chisels, wooden wedges, fire, water, and human hands. The terrace of Persepolis does not sit on natural ground. It sits on an artificial platform. A raised stone foundation roughly 500 meters long and 300 meters wide, up to 18 meters high in places. All of it carved directly from the mountain behind it. Every block cut by hand. Architectural detail. Close-up reconstruction of workers cutting massive limestone blocks from the mountain face. Copper chisels sparking against pale stone. Wooden scaffolding rising above the plain. Dust hanging in the afternoon heat. Modern engineers have calculated that workers had to move approximately 125,000 cubic meters of stone. Roughly 50,000 elephant loads of rock, moved entirely by human muscle. No engines, no steel, no explosives. They used fire and water. Enormous bonfires heated sections of the mountain face for hours. Then cold water was poured onto the superheated rock, creating deep fractures. Then the chisels went in, then the wooden wedges. Then when the block finally broke free, sometimes weighing 40 tons, it was dragged up compacted earth ramps by teams of workers pulling on ropes made from animal hides. We know this because the tools were left behind. The ramps were left behind. The unfinished carvings are still visible on the mountain face. Chisel marks, frozen mid-stroke. Persepolis is not just an ancient city. It is a frozen construction site. A disaster interrupted in the middle of work. Darius did not design Persepolis to be lived in. No one lived there permanently. Not the king, not the court, not the administrators of the empire. Persepolis had one purpose. One single, overwhelming, carefully calculated purpose. It was a stage. Once a year, at the spring equinox, during the Persian New Year called Nowruz, delegations from every nation in the empire were required to travel to Persepolis. Not invited, required. every nation, every year, carrying tribute, gold, silver, animals, textiles, soldiers offered as symbols of loyalty. The journey for some delegations took months, and every element of the architecture they walked through was designed to perform psychological work on them before they ever reached the king. AI visual, reconstruction of the Apadana staircase at Nowruz, delegations from 23 nations ascending in procession, Nubian ambassadors beside Lydian horsemen, Babylonian officials draped in jeweled robes, the columns of the Apadana towering above them all. The main staircase was wide enough for 10 horses side by side, but the steps were only 10 centimeters high. This forced everyone, even soldiers in full armor, to climb slowly, deliberately. You could not rush. You could not stride. You could only move at the pace the building permitted. By the time you reached the top, your body had already been educated. This place operated on its own terms, not yours. And then you walked through the gate of all nations. The gate had no doors. It could not be closed. It was a declaration in stone. 2 enormous stone bulls flanked the entrance. 2 human-headed bulls flanked the exit, each figure over 5 meters tall, each weighing more than 50 tons. Comparison: modern photograph of the surviving gate of all nations alongside AI reconstruction in 500 BC. The guardian bulls fully intact, painted in red, blue, and gold under the desert sun. The inscription on the gate was written in 3 languages: Old Persian, Elamite, and Babylonian. It said, "All lands belong to me. All lands belong to me." Imagine walking through that gate carrying your nation's tribute. Imagine what those words did to your identity. Imagine what they were designed to do. The heart of the complex was the Apadana, the great audience hall that could hold 10,000 people simultaneously. Its roof was supported by 72 columns, each 20 meters tall, each built from stacked stone drums weighing up to 40 tons, fitted together to tolerances of less than 2 millimeters. 2 millimeters, with copper tools, without precision instruments, architectural detail. Slow zoom into the capital of a surviving Apadana column, twin bullheads carved with microscopic precision, every muscle defined, every nostril flared, the work of craftsmen who spent months on a single stone surface 20 meters above the ground. We do not know how many ropes snapped raising those drums. We do not know how many scaffolds collapsed. The tablets recorded rations, not obituaries. Column by column, drum by drum, death by invisible death. The walls were covered in hundreds of meters of carved reliefs depicting the Nowruz procession in extraordinary detail. And the craftsmen who carved them were deliberately international. Egyptian stonemasons, Ionian Greek sculptors, Lydian metalworkers, Babylonian tile makers. Darius was not just building a palace. He was demonstrating that his empire could command the finest skills of every civilization on Earth and direct them toward a single purpose. It worked. For 130 years it worked. And then Alexander arrived, 330 BC. Alexander of Macedon stood at the gates of Persepolis with 48,000 soldiers at his back. The Achaemenid Empire was already broken. Darius III was dead. When his forces entered the treasury vaults, they found a quantity of gold and silver so enormous it required 20,000 mules and 5,000 camels to transport it. 20,000 mules, 5,000 camels. This was 130 years of tribute from 23 nations, compounding in the dark underground year after year. AI visual, reconstruction of the Persepolis treasury interior, vast stone chambers stacked with gold ingots, silver vessels, carved ivory, bolts of Babylonian silk, oil lamps casting long shadows across mountains of accumulated empire. Alexander reportedly wept when he saw it, not from joy, from the realization of how small his own kingdom had always been. The army camped outside Persepolis for 4 months. Alexander did not burn it immediately. He read the archives. He studied the structure. He interviewed the surviving court officials. He was trying to understand what he had conquered. Because Persepolis was not just stone and gold. It was a functioning system, a 200-year-old administrative machine governing the most diverse empire in history. The scribes who could read 20 languages, the officials who knew every tribute route across 4,000 kilometers of territory, and Alexander made a calculation. If he preserved Persepolis, the idea of the Achaemenid Empire would survive inside his own empire. The nations he had conquered would still have a living alternative center of loyalty. He could not rule that way. In the spring of 329 BC, fire was set to the royal quarter. The ancient sources disagree on whether it was deliberate policy or a drunken night that escaped control. We will never know. What we know is what the fire did. AI visual, the Persepolis fire at night. Columns silhouetted against a sky turned copper and orange, the cedar roof collapsing inward in cascades of flame, soldiers standing far back watching 200 years of civilization end in hours. The cedar beams, some original from Darius I, had been drying in the arid Persian air for 2 centuries. They burned with terrifying speed. The stone survived. The carved reliefs survived. The staircases survived. Everything made of wood was erased in a single night. The roofs, the doors, and most devastatingly, the wooden archive boxes containing 130 years of administrative records, tax rolls, legal decisions, correspondence between the king and the governors of 23 provinces, the accumulated institutional memory of the greatest empire the ancient world had produced. Gone. Everything we know about how Achaemenid Persia actually functioned, how it governed 4,000 kilometers of territory, how it managed 23 legal systems simultaneously, we know from fragments, or from what the Greeks wrote. And the Greeks were not neutral observers. The Persian voice, its literature, its philosophy, its administrative genius, was stored in those wooden boxes, and it burned, by accident or by calculation. We still do not know which. After the fire, Persepolis lost its purpose. Without the empire, there was no ceremony. Without the ceremony, there was no reason for any of it. Over the following centuries, the columns weakened, the floors became dirt, and local farmers used the stone as building material. The greatest ceremonial complex of the ancient world became a quarry, and yet the carved reliefs on the staircases were never touched. For 2,000 years, while everything around them was demolished and taken, they survived completely intact. Local tradition held that the figures were sacred, that to damage them would bring terrible misfortune. Comparison: AI reconstruction of the Apadana staircase reliefs at full height alongside a modern photograph of the same reliefs today. The stone faces still sharp, the procession of nations still moving forward, 25 centuries unable to erase what copper chisels made permanent. Perhaps the people living around the ruins understood something instinctively, that these carvings were not decoration. They were the only surviving direct testimony of what this empire looked like from the inside. And here's what makes them extraordinary. The faces are not generic. Each figure in the procession is individualized. The Nubian ambassadors carry their tribute with a bearing that reads as pride. The Lydian delegation leads horses with easy familiarity. The Ionian Greeks walk with formal but subtly reluctant compliance. The Median guards stand with the quiet authority of professional soldiers in every era. These were not symbols. They were portraits of a world that no longer existed, preserved in stone by craftsmen who understood that what they were carving mattered. At the spring equinox, at the exact moment of Nowruz, if you stand at the base of the great staircase and face east, the rising sun aligns precisely with the gap between the Gate of All Nations and the summit of the Ku'e Ramat mountain. The entire complex was astronomically oriented. Once a year, the building performed. The sun flooded the staircase reliefs in golden light at the exact moment the tributary processions began their ascent. It was not just construction, it was choreography on a geological scale. And yet one question remains permanently unanswered. Why here? There are dozens of more practical locations in Fars. Closer to water, easier to supply. The Marvdasht plain has no obvious natural advantage. Some scholars believe there was already a Zoroastrian sacred site here before Darius arrived. Others believe the mountain itself was the reason that the Ku'e Ramat was already considered divine, and Darius built at its foot to claim that divinity for the empire. Others point to the astronomical alignment and argue the location was selected after years of astronomical calculation. We do not know. The knowledge was never committed to clay, or it burned in 329 BC, or it was passed in whispers from priest to priest until the last priest who carried it died. The reason Persepolis stands where it stands is lost. That silence, that unanswerable absence at the center of the most intentional building project of the ancient world, is perhaps the most haunting thing about the entire place. Today, 13 columns of the Apadana still stand in the Marvdasht plain, visible from 30 kilometers away on a clear day. The carved reliefs are so sharp that you can read the expression on a face carved 25 centuries ago. Darius built Persepolis to project power, to write his dominance into stone permanently, to make nations feel small. What survived was something he never intended: human faces. Individual, particular, unrepeatable human faces carved by artists who could not help seeing what was actually in front of them. AI visual, final slow tracking shot along the Apadana Eastern Staircase relief. The procession of 23 nations in continuous carved stone, early morning light making the figures appear to breathe. The Zagros Mountains unchanged in the far distance, behind the 13 columns still holding their ground against the sky. Persepolis was built to make an empire feel eternal. The empire fell in one night, but the faces are still there. In 518 BC, a king decided to move a mountain. He never lived to see it finished. His son finished it. His grandson added to it, and then one man with a torch ended it in a single night. 60 years of construction, 130 years of ceremony, 2,500 years of silence, and still the columns stand. 13 of them, rising from the desert plain, holding up nothing, pointing at a sky that has watched every empire that ever called itself eternal discover that it was wrong. Persepolis was never lost. It was always exactly where Darius put it. We were the ones who forgot how to see it.